Hello and welcome to In the Spotlight with Quocirca, the definitive podcast on digital disruption in the print industry. I'm Louella Fernandez, Director of Quocirca, and today I'm joined by James Clark, CEO of Apogee. Today we'll be discussing how Apogee is driving transformation in the IT services space. So welcome to the show, James. It's great to have you here today.
Thank you for having me. I'm really pleased to be on the show and spend some time.
Great. So before we get into the conversation, could you tell us a bit about yourself, your career history, and your transition to the CEO role at Apogee?
Yeah, of course. So I guess I've had a bit. I guess no one's career is the same, are they? But I've not been forever in the IT industry. I actually started in shampoos, face creams, and razor blades. My sort of first 16, 17 years of my career, I worked at Procter and Gamble. Some of your listeners might not know Procter and Gamble, but they might know the brands that they sell, things like Pantene, Head and Shoulders, Gillette, Pampers, Oil of Olay. So I had the pleasure of working for them for 16, 17 years across UK, Ireland, Switzerland, and finally in Singapore in Asia for 6 years, where I was the finance director for the Gillette business in wider Asia. Fantastic opportunity to learn a variety of different business models, but it wasn't the IT space. And it was actually when I moved back to Europe, I had the opportunity of joining HP in their Geneva headquarters. And I was the head of finance for a part of the Western European division of HP for about 2 years across both their print and their PC business. So that was my first foray into the sort of the IT part of the IT business. And then on the acquisition, HP acquired Apogee back in end of 2018, and I was asked at the time to go in and become Apogee's Chief Financial Officer. I did that for about 3.5 years, which was a fantastic experience. Great. Learned a hell of a lot in terms of the managed print business. It was a proper sort of, go straight into that. I had done obviously print, but more from an OEM standpoint, not from a reseller standpoint. And then I did that for 3.5 years. We had some interesting times during the pandemic, as I'm sure many of your listeners will have also had. And then I got the opportunity to go back to HP. So I left Apogee, rejoined HP for about 18 months. And that included a role running the new Poly business. I was the head of global finance for Poly, again, a recent acquisition of HP. And then my predecessor, Aurelio Marugi, it was time for him to move on. He was offered a role again back at HP, interestingly, to run the office print business for them. And that then came up the opportunity of me coming back and becoming the chief exec. So bit of a winding road. I'm not, as I said, 100%, all in, from the get-go IT, but I do believe actually sometimes coming in with a few different business models, different brands, and different ways of allows you to actually potentially bring new ideas into an industry.
Yeah, really interesting. And I think it's interesting you mentioned about Gillette, because there's often the comparison with the razor blades model to print. So I suppose there was a bit of a similarity there in terms of business models at the low end of the print market, at least. So you mentioned Apogee in terms of the relationship with HP. But before we talk about that, could you tell us a bit more about how Apogee has been transforming the business? Because obviously the core business has always been managed print services, and you've moved quite successfully into IT services, and I believe that's a growing part of your business. So could you tell us a bit about that strategy and the key growth areas that you're focusing on?
Oh, of course, of course. I mean, the first thing I'd say is I mean, Apogee has a long history within the managed print space. If you sort of go back, it's about it's a 30-year-old company. It's an amalgamation of many different acquisitions over time, and then obviously that was then sealed with the purchase by HP. Apogee itself. I think the first thing that I'd say about us as a company, we're very much, a customer first company, which is all around making sure we deliver against the unmet needs of our customers. And the reality is over the last sort of 5, 6, 7 years, the customers' needs are changing. They're what they need out of both print, but also the wider sort of managed workspace, managed workplace, and obviously managed IT is also changing as well. And we are and will continue to be a very successful managed print provider. I'm very proud of the work that we do and the customers that we serve. But one of the things we realized, 5, 6 years ago was, what we deliver and the great service that we can deliver to our customers in print, we can actually go and do that across other parts of the business as customers see print still as important, but maybe less important than it was, 6, 7, 8 years ago. So many of the skills we have, so many of the consultative approach that we have to work with customers, to be their sort of to be their ally in the transformation efforts they're taking through. We really saw an opportunity for us to bring other products to market that can really enable customers, and that's not just managed desktop, managed telephony. It's digital services. It's scanning solutions for the NHS. It is digital records management. It is workflow, and there's so many things that previously we were helping with the document flow of a company that was quite physical. The reality is we can really enable and deliver value for companies in a digital sense as well. And so, yes, that piece of paper might have turned into a PDF or a scan or something, but actually we have the skill set to really add and deliver significant value for our customers. So I think that mindset is the mindset that has made us successful so far. I mean, I want to be very clear. We're very much, we're into the beginning of the journey, but there's so much further that I see us wanting to go in the next 5 to 10 years in terms of, these areas, in terms of, and also the growth in those areas as well.
Yeah, and I think, as you say, so MPS providers are really well positioned to bridge that gap between print and digital, and Apogee particularly having that core strength in MPS, it makes it an ideal choice for companies looking to digitize those paper-based processes. And it sounds like you've been doing that for some time. And I did attend one of your customer events, and it was really interesting to see the breadth and depth of the portfolio of services and solutions. So just leading on from that, we talked a bit about the HP relationship. So Apogee is an independent subsidiary of HP. So could you tell us a bit more about that strategic relationship, how it impacts your relationship with other vendors, because I know you are multi-vendor as well, and the benefits it offers your customers?
Oh, absolutely. Yes, I mean, we are a wholly owned, but as you say, fully independent subsidiary. And I have to say, I think, let me start from the customer first on this one. What it gives our customers, I think, is literally the best of both worlds. It is knowing that you've got a smaller, we're not a big multinational company, Apogee. We are 90%, of our revenue is in the UK. We do have, though, European subsidiaries, and we do a great job there. But primarily, we are still, we're obviously quite core in the UK. But we've got that ability to, because of our size, to be agile and flexible to the needs for our customers. Yet we are backed, financially by HP, and we have access to obviously the products that HP sell, and people will also have I believe customers also like the fact that we can combine HP products, and we'll get onto other vendors as well in a moment, by the way. We can combine HP products, but also a knowing and understanding that we hold ourselves to those sorts of standards that a multinational company would. So you get effectively the best of both worlds, which I think is absolutely fantastic. The other reason you get the best of both worlds is that it's not. I want to go back to what we're all about. We're about customer first. We're about delivering against the unmet needs of our customers and clients, because if we deliver value for them, we can rightly, create value for ourselves. Now, that doesn't always, HP's great and they've got some fantastic products, but they don't have every single product that a customer might need for us to deliver against their unmet need. And so actually having the ability to, and that's, by the way, across the print space, that is across the software space, that is across the collaboration space, the telephony space. Our job is to identify the solution that is right for the customer. And if that isn't HP, that's absolutely fine, because my number 1, 2, 3, and 4 priority is delivering value for that customer, taking away any internal friction that they have so they can actually go and create value externally themselves. And if we do that again, they'll reward us with value creation opportunities of our own. So that's what I think is great. We let's be clear, the print, and as well, the print portfolio, as an example from HP, is a great portfolio. Do they have every single part of the landscape nailed? No, they don't. There are some parts of the sort of the print landscape that they don't necessarily have the product that is needed. And so we have strategic relationships, not just with HP, but with other vendors. I mean, as an example, Ricoh, okay, and we have great relationship with them. I have a QBR with them. We focus on how we build our joint business together. And again, in other spaces, be it managed desktop, be it managed collaboration, we do have options that maybe that is afforded to us by having this sort of independent, very independent setup.
Yeah, so really focusing on that business value you can deliver to customers regardless of the vendor. So you're very well positioned to provide solutions across the board. So in terms of managed IT services, just to drill down into that a bit, because that tends to be a big focus for a lot of MPS providers who are looking to advance their business and drive more diversification around their business offerings. But there are a lot of challenges around that as well, in terms of the right talent, how to incentivize salespeople around managed IT services versus MPS. And yeah, just really curious to understand what challenges you've experienced around building your managed IT service offering, and perhaps what your expectations are in terms of that space for MPS providers in the next few years.
Oh, 100%. And I think let's start, let's start maybe a bit broader than even thinking about Apogee. Actually, let's think about the broad print reseller motion, as it were. And I do think that, and also let's think about what managed IT is as a business offering versus maybe what previously managed print has been. And although there are many analogies, actually the business motion of managed IT is significantly different, I believe. This is James's view of the world, by the way, Louella. I'm not even going to claim this is Apogee's, but this is as I've come in and relatively new to the industry. I mean, although people would say I've been here 7 years, I can't claim the new card anymore. But as I've looked at the business, I think managed IT is going to be much more heavily reliant on the annuity that is received from that service. In the past, there has always been an annuity, let's be clear, in managed print, but there has also been a value creation at the start of any contract, driven by the fact that normally there is a piece of kit that is delivered, there is a solution that is installed, there is to be that workflow documentation, tap to print, whatever it is, and that is packaged up, and then that is sold to the customer through, often in the past, relationships with leasing companies, and then there is an ongoing service revenue from the number of clicks that happen. I mean, that's the standard, the classic sort of MPS motion. Now, what that motion does, though, create is it does create, for many resellers, a sort of upfront profit that often is a quite significant portion of the overall profitability or value for them for that whole deal. And much of the incentive structure and the way that the companies have been built in the past has been around that upfront part of the deal. And then the service annuity piece has been the bit that sort of chugs along afterwards. In managed IT services and things like, and again, that is such a wide area of space, but much, I believe, less of the value will be created in an upfront motion with then a tail. I believe it will be a lot more of a steady annuity stream. And so I think one of the biggest challenges the print reseller industry has is how does it sort of change its internal models of incentivization, compensation, even operations to ensure that the right level of incentive is there for these longer term, sort of more steady state annuity contracts. By the way, this has been done before. It's been done before in the software industry. If you take the Adobes of this world, the SAPs of this world, they've moved from, SAP moved, probably 5-10 years ago from we're going to make a lot of money up front by selling effectively, an entire ERP to a company. I mean, eye-watering amounts, but same idea. And then, yes, there was always that ongoing service of, help desk, et cetera. But then they moved to effectively these cloud-based solutions and this subscription solution. And again, so it's not like we, the industry, are the only ones that have got it. So many industries have moved this way. But we as an industry do need to find a way of making that change, I believe. And that is a big change. We have a generation of fantastic, consultative-based sales folks out there who have gone, but they've thought about their business, their industry, their client in one way. So if there's one thing that I think can get in the way of MPS providers moving into the managed IT space, I think one of the big ones, I believe personally, is that, because it underpins so much of how they run. And so, whereas I think some of these managed IT providers, they don't have that. They have a different way of incentivization, and therefore, they're not jumping there. So I think what's going to be interesting in the next 3-4 years is going to be how many print-focused MPS companies can truly take the leap. I think there are lots of folks that see the benefit of it. I think there's lots of people that like the idea of what it looks like in 5 years' time. But getting to that 5 years, I think, will be difficult from a change management perspective across the industry.
Yeah, and I think that's a really good point that some of the software vendors have already made that leap from on-prem to cloud-based SaaS subscription type solution selling. And I think they've had to move there and transition their channel partners to that. And like you say, the print industry needs to do the same from MPS to managed IT services. It's a very different sales engagement as well, and different expertise and skills needed around cloud and IT and AI even with a lot of these solutions. So yeah, it's great to hear how Apogee is looking at planning to transform its business in that direction through potentially changing the way it works with its sales resources. And I think, also it is a competitive space because there's so many IT services providers as well. So I think, do you see with Apogee how it's positioning itself in managed IT services, if it's specifically focused on that sort of SME space rather than obviously what the big systems integrators are targeting?
Yeah, 100%. I mean, you make a really good point. I mean, as I've come in, I've been working with my ELT to sort of refine our strategy. And the first thing I'd say is I think, our current sales organization has undergone a significant transformation over the last 5 years. And, let's all be honest, many of us in the print industry have seen a really tough last 5 years. It's been all hands on deck, dealing with a pandemic, dealing with, significant drops in print volumes during the pandemic, and they have not bounced back. I think anyone that tells us that they've bounced back to pre-pandemic, I think we'd call them Pinocchio. So the reality is that we there has been a difficult environment. But one thing I'm really proud of what Apogee has done over the last sort of 3-4 years is a significant cultural change and change management within the sales organization. We really have made the journey from being, we think print first to now we think offering first, we think customer first, we think what is the solution that you need and then we'll go and work out how we deliver it for you. And that is a big change, and it's because you have people that might have been working in the industry 10 years, 15 years, 30 years, and approaching customers' problems in a certain way. And actually, we are changing the way we sell. I mean, again, great analogy is the one that we've talked already. This, going in and selling on-prem versus subscription is so difficult, and it doesn't happen overnight. I don't, as much as I wish I had a magic wand, I can't just tap, 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 and then, the organization. But Carl Day, the CSO of Apogee, and his leadership team have done a fantastic job. I mean, hats off to them over the last, 3 to 4 years, and what they have done in terms of, changing the way that we go to market from a sales standpoint. They really have done a good job.
And I think you sort of touched there on, some of the, originally we were talking about the business value delivering to customers, and what we're seeing, if we talk a bit about sustainability, and also, obviously you're sitting in front of a very interesting statement that Apogee is committed to sustainability. And we are seeing in our research that more organisations are looking at the sustainability credential of their print suppliers and their MPS providers, and they're looking for more transparency around environmental impacts around printing. So I was interested to understand a bit more about how Apogee is positioning itself in that space, and also if you're seeing more RFPs coming through with sustainability criteria, and if that's kind of rising up the business agenda.
Yes, I mean, first of all, how are we positioning ourselves? I mean, I would like to make sure that we are positioning ourselves as being being one of the leading lights in this area, and one of the leading sort of indispensable partners for our customers in the area of sustainability. And I hope also a thought leader in that. And, we're lucky, again, back to the benefits of, being owned by HP. HP are a hard taskmaster, to be honest with you, on sustainability, because they have some very aggressive goals themselves. And they make sure that they keep us, quote, honest on ensuring that we are clear with our plan on how we are going to ensure we are sustainable. And there's a number of different ways we are currently doing it, and we will do it into the future. The first is, as we look at the hardware that we do sell, be it HP or, by the way, other vendors, clearly part of the choice point we have when we purchase is, what percentage of that initial purchase of new hardware, how much of that is being made from recycled materials. And again, this isn't an HP advert, but they've got their one of their elite book, Dragonflies, has 5 or 10% ocean-bound plastics used in it. And again, that sounds a bit like a gimmick, but actually, when you start adding up all these incremental gains, they all make a difference. And so we have a choice, first of all, actually, because at the end of the day, I'm offering a solution to my customer. That solution comes, for example, with a printer. So then actually it's beholden on me to say, how do I get the printer that's most sustainable into that customer? Okay, so that's number one. We then do a hell of a lot of work on making sure that we are proactively recycling all of those consumables that come, that get used by our customers. I was in an NHS trust. I as often as I can try to go back to the floor, as it were. And I was with one of our field service engineers 4 weeks ago, and going around an NHS trust within, making sure everything was working well. But again, the number of, recycling bins that I saw specifically for, was great to see. And actually, those are being constantly churned. They come back to our big warehouse in Lincoln, and they get shipped off back to be, completely, either completely 100% reused, I should say, or they get taken apart, etc. We also have print relief, which is a scheme by which customers can sign up to, and effectively we offset the paper that they use. I think, I think he says he thinks we've had about 10,000 trees we have replanted in the last 3 to 4 years through that scheme. So again, an opportunity in this case from the paper usage to be offset. And then finally, we're seeing a real uptake in our ACE line. Our ACE line is the Apogee Circular Economy line. And, we have a large fleet of printers, as you can well imagine, and MFDs and devices in field. And those naturally come normally to an end of their life with a customer. But that did notice I said end of a life with that customer, not end of their useful life. And actually, with the technology that these printers, a 5-year-old printer, if if it has been well maintained, which that's part of what we do, we well maintain it, so we know it's got good credence. We if it's been well maintained, it comes back, it gets refreshed. Truly, there's another 3, 4, 5 years in that device. And we are really seeing a big uptake on that, and that's because at the end of the day, going back to your original question, how often are we seeing this in RFPs? We do see it more often. I mean, I would say the public sector, it's a given. I'm sure many of your listeners would say, yeah, public sectors, but we are seeing it more in private sector. Now, I was having a conversation with someone yesterday, and I think there is still a reality that as much, price is still there. But my job, and I would still say it's number one in the private sector, and I'd probably say in the public sector, by the way. But the person that will win the deal will do it with price, with quality. But then if you've got an edge on sustainability, that's where you can really win. And that isn't just a sales, oh, look, yeah, we do X, Y, and Z. If you can prove to the client how you can deliver sustainability, and by the way, sustainability isn't just about paper and ink and energy use. It's also about the way that we show up as Apogee, and the way that we, work with charities, the way that we do volunteering. If you buy into Apogee, you're also buying into a company with a culture of, ensuring that its ESG goals are well delivered. So that we do see it. We do see the conversation, and I would like to make sure that as many of the deals we can do have an element of, even if it's not 100% used, because again, back to use cases, and the reality is as we bring in more digital solutions, some of those that still require sort of an MFD in it, sometimes we might need a few devices that are newer with, frankly speaking, a better hard drive, a better processor to manage some of the workflow. But that doesn't mean, if I'm honest, the printer in the CEO office where you literally just prints can't be used. Now, we probably won't want the purchasing guy is not going to want to tell him that, but there are so many, again, if you think about it, there's so many ways we can do more. The other area actually, though, which is, again, sort of speaking, I think, practically, the one thing that I would love to do if I had a magic wand would turn my entire fleet. We have over 220 service engineers around the country doing a fantastic job, national coverage. We put a lot of miles in. Okay, if I had a magic wand, I would love to tomorrow turn my entire fleet electric. That could do a huge amount. But there is some massive realities, the same realities that meant that Rishi Sunak, 4 or 5 months ago, said, look, we can't do a 2030 on, the ban on internal combustion engine. It's going to have to be 2035. And the reality is we have this tension here of I need to deliver a good service for my clients. It can't be that I have my service engineer at Fleet Services for 30 minutes in a day recharging his van. Because that would take that would impact my SLAs. So interestingly, Apogee is also under the does have the same has the issues that many of your listeners, many of the countries have of the infrastructure that we have today and the technology. So okay, I can't go electric tomorrow. Do I want to do that by 2030? Absolutely. Okay, and but over the course though of between now and 2030, you and I both know there's other practical things that Apogee can do, and by the way, our competition, and by the way, the rest of the industry, just to get a little bit better every day. And things such as, as we recycle our fleet, bringing in more hybrid electric as we come in, and as old, and we can move our way this way to a point where, yes, by 2030 our goal would be to be 100% sort of green energy in terms of our service fleet.
Yeah, and I think you raised some really good points there, because sustainability really is that kind of double-edged sword in terms of how do you show up for your customers by demonstrating you're addressing all these ESG credentials, and the culture of the business is going in that direction without greenwashing, because I think that's always a potential challenge. But then also, what products and services are you bringing to market? And like you say, with HP, clearly a leader around sustainability across their personal systems and print business. And I know with HP Amplify Impact, I think they're really very ambitious in terms of their channel partners being able to achieve those goals. But it was interesting to hear about the Apogee circular line, because it's not something I was really that familiar with, and I think I've seen some material on that since we last spoke. So is that something that's been going for a while, or is it a new offering?
It's a great question. I would say it was something we were doing anyway, because there has always been, and I'm sure many of your listeners in similar companies would say, well, we've always refurbished the odd piece of kit. But that was the point. We've always refurbished the odd piece of kit. I think this is about being much more intentional, and I think there is a genuine market demand for it now. And we have really ramped it up, I would say, over the last 12 to 18 months, and we have further plans to continuing that. The reality is that, there is a genuine place for it. Are we going to be selling 100% reuse? No, we're not. Okay, we won't. Because, again, going back to my point about technology, there are some elements of the solutions we bring that will require, frankly, more bandwidth or megahertz, or it's not megahertz anymore, is it? It's giggle, that shows my age, gigahertz in terms of processor speed. But there is a genuine use case for them. So yeah, it is newish. I mean, 12, 18 months, and I'm really proud of it, and I'm really excited about it. We've got some big plans for it actually over the next 12 to 18 months. So watch this space.
Just when we were setting up the call, it was really interesting to see how you set up this virtual collaboration room. And I think I was going to go on to ask you a bit about AI. And I know this was an AI-enabled video collaboration room you're in. So I don't know if you can tell us a bit about how you're applying AI to your business internally, how you see it kind of moving from hype to practical approaches for your customers, because I think there's a lot of noise around AI, and it can be quite complex, and I would say a lot of AI washing as well in the tech industry in general. So what are your views on that, and how it could impact your customers?
That's a great question, and first of all, I completely echo your point about AI washing. First of all, AI is, I've got to say this first, it will change the world. I think no one disagrees with that. It will change. I mean, I think the thing, though, that we have to be clear on is there was a time where about a year ago when ChatGPT-4 came out, that literally people went from hardly talking about AI in any meeting to within 24 hours, everyone feeling like AI had to be part of everything. Now, here's the reality. AI hasn't just turned up. AI has been around for a long time. And so I'll get back to that in a moment in terms of how we're using it. Because we've been using AI for donkey's years. It's just getting better. And there has admittedly been a significant step change because of these large language models and their human-like execution, let's call it. And I think that's why people they've almost been like taking that sort of startled, oh my goodness, now let's talk about it, we've got to look like it. And, again, there were a series of announcements, I mean, very contemporaneous, but there was a series of announcements yesterday, right, and the day before from Microsoft and other vendors, including HP. And actually, I'm sure you watched this, Louella, stock prices jumped across the board. And, therefore, the reality is at the moment, there is almost at least a short-term reward for companies to AI wash. Okay, that is, again, another reality. But what's important, number one, for Apogee, is the customer's unmet need. And our number one priority is to go in and understand what is the problem that the customer thinks they have. Is that a symptom of actually the real problem, or is it the actual cause? Once we've understood the cause, our job is then to create the solution and the product that will deliver against the unmet need that they have. If AI is going to be a significant part of that, absolutely. But I'm not going to force AI down the throat of, someone just because then I can say I've delivered something for AI. But that's why we're lucky in Apogee, because actually what matters is delivering against an unmet need. Now, how are we using AI? So the first thing is, as I was saying earlier, we've been using, and by the way, there'll be people listening to this saying, yeah, James, right, we've been using AI for ages, but things like proactive monitoring, things such as, HPSDS, as an example, have been monitoring printer fleets for years, looking to proactively say, oh, now, is it a large language model? No, it's not. But is it using algorithms, large amounts of data to say, hey, that printer is about to go pop. Let's go and replace that part before it does. We've been doing that for years, okay? And we will continue to, and we'll get better at it. We will start to use AI across the way that we manage interactions with customers, not because we're going to replace people, by the way, with chatbots, but because actually AI can be useful to get a sense of sentiment analysis. Like, actually, is Apogee delivering the service we should be to our clients based on the exchanges that we see with them? Have we got a potential issue that we should be dealing with that actually maybe isn't obvious to us, but could be obvious to AI that we need to go and manage? I think AI will clearly continue to be super important within the actual stuff we sell, and by stuff I mean the tech, the actual physical asset. Yes, I certainly do, and certainly as a software. So we have some brilliant. I talked earlier about our scanning and patient record scanning we do for the NHS and that type of thing. But again, back to AI, OCR. I mean, that is AI at the end of the day. It will get better. It will get quicker. It will do things that we didn't previously think it could do. It will read even my handwriting at some point. It's going to be able to manage. And these are all things that will just get better with more investment in AI. But this particular piece of and shout out to Polly. This is a piece of Polly kit that I'm talking with you from. But if I had 2 or 3 people in this room, the software now on this piece of kit, for example, would actually cut into, rather than you just seeing a group of 4 or 5 people and not quite being able to see their faces, on the little thumbnail, it will move to 2 or 3 people and make them sort of more in a portrait photo, even with this one camera. So that's the sort of technology that we can also see. And again, our managed collaboration services, can take advantage of that technological advance, because again, that's something that's a win for the customer. We can obviously make sure that, when it goes wrong, we can keep them online and not waste any time in meetings. But these are the sorts of things we'll see more and more from AI. It will help ESG goals. Again, the more proactive monitoring we can do, the more we can fix things over the air before they need a physical fix because of AI. The more, I don't send someone out then to the Outer Hebrides. I can do it. I've done it proactively. They didn't need therefore a physical fit. Therefore, we've just saved an entire journey from Glasgow to the Outer Hebrides, as an example. So that's, I think, what's so exciting about AI. And I'll be honest, the thing that I sometimes personally roll my eyes at is when I feel like people are just forcing it. I don't think we need to force it. This thing's going to come. It's going to come quickly. And it's rather than talking, talking a lot about it, I'd rather have people focusing really on what it can deliver and deliver for their customers. And that's what we're focused on at Apogee.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think, like you say, Gen AI was almost the killer use case for AI, which was already being used under the hood for proactive monitoring and supplies replenishment and so on. And I think it's interesting, you mentioned sustainability. There really is a strong link between AI and sustainability. On one side of the coin, it can really help drive sustainability, reduce environmental impact, but obviously AI and the LLMs, they have huge energy demands. So I think it's going to be interesting to see how it plays out. And you mentioned there Microsoft's Copilot plus AI PCs, and again, opportunity for technology refresh. And I think for IT services centric companies like yourselves, it's a real opportunity to build more sales opportunities as well around those AI enabled devices.
Oh, 100%, 100%.
So, it's been really interesting covering so many areas in terms of what Apogee are doing. Just to finish off, it'd be interesting to understand what's next for Apogee in terms of its business and expansion plans, and also any thoughts on what's next for the print industry in the coming year.
Oh, absolutely. I think the first thing is we are very much on a journey. If I was to tell you we are the company that we want to be, we're not. Like so many companies, we're we are constantly looking to deliver more for our clients and expand the services that we can, deliver for our clients, because there are many unmet needs our customers and clients have that I think Apogee should be serving. And actually, we're not today. Now, we're not because actually our work as Apogee is still not done. There are so many customers that still see us as a print company. And, at the end of the day, we are blessed with, thousands of customers and also thousands of people who are future customers. They're just not yet. But actually, we have got such a strong heritage in print. We are still, it's often it's still, I'm not going to say it's surprising. It's a reality that you can still spend time with a client or even a potential future client, and they don't realize that you do all these other services. So to be very clear, we are doubling down on growth within this managed IT, managed infrastructure, collaboration. I think the story's just beginning for Apogee. I mean, I see a view of, in 5 years' time, we should have a minimum 50% of our business in non-MPS. The reality is, though, there will still be MPS, because as much as we're constantly killing the print, we've been constantly killing the print, I think, since the 90s. And as much as, again, customers and clients would like to shake a magic wand and say, I don't want a bunch of MFDs in my office. I want to completely digitalize my workflow. You and I both know, Louella, that everything's about triaging and one thing at a time and priorities. So print will continue to be for the, and this is therefore more of an industry conversation. Well, it is going to exist. Is the market going to, get smaller over time? Yes, it will. Okay. And has it had a bit of an impact since the pandemic? Yes, we've all seen the step down, but the reason it was a step down and then it sort of flatlined is because so many critical business processes in our customers require that paper. And so that is going to stay. Now, what will happen, I think, is that pool is getting smaller. I think what companies need to realize is that, it's important for customers, but it's not as important as it's used to be. And therefore, the value they attach to it in certain cases is less. And so that's why it's so important that companies like, and Apogee itself is saying, well, where else can we add value given the skill sets that we have? So I think, for Apogee, it's a doubling down in this area. We are blessed, as I say, with a fantastic, sales organization, an amazing, services and operations organization, and it's a back office to die for. And fundamentally, we have to take our skills and the value we can add to more of our existing clients and clearly new clients in these other areas. And I think that's where our focus will be in the next sort of 3, 4, 5 years, is really growing ourselves out there. And that will mean competing with folks that maybe have got a longer lineage in some of those areas, but maybe don't have the national, we've got feet on the street nationally. Okay, so, not only can we fix your printer, we can fix, we can pick up a laptop, we can do a hot swap, we don't need to send it by FedEx, we've physically got people. And these are the sorts of competitive advantages that we'll look to continue to deliver value for our customers. And then I think for the print industry, I think, as I said, it isn't going to disappear overnight. I do, though, think that, and I'm saying this then with the irony of, obviously, it's Fujifilm that have come out recently with almost like a new entrant. And I mean, that was, I'll be honest, if you read all the business books, that's the last thing you'd expect based on the shape of the industry at the moment, right? You would have, if you had put money at the start of the year on a consolidation and not an additional entrant, you'd have felt like you were on to at least you wouldn't have put your house on it, but you'd have maybe put a small car, and it's not happened. Instead, we've gone the complete other way. Do I still think, though, that over time there will be a need for an element of OEM consolidation? I guess so. It's a shrinking market. Efficiencies need to be delivered across there. I think the other thing that's going to be interesting is that there's that from a reseller standpoint, we're still pretty fragmented. I think there'll always be a large number of medium sized and small resellers. What happens at the sort of the larger end of the market will also be interesting. I think there's been a number of companies that over the last 4 or 5 years have been built up and maybe owned by private equity. It'll be interesting to see what happens there over the course of the next couple of years, because some of those journeys started just before the pandemic. Probably they weren't expecting a pandemic. So again, it'll be interesting to see what pops up there in terms of is there further consolidation to be had of those sorts of those companies? I don't know. It's going to be really, really, really interesting. But the one thing I think we can all agree on is that paper's not dead yet. I think it will still continue. It will continue to probably slightly decline. But as I said, customers still and clients still have needs for it. I think, though, that longer term, part of Apogee's job is to also help clients, create value for clients by helping them come off the paper drug when they've got processes that could be digitized better. And that's not going to happen overnight, but over time, large organizations are going to need help upgrading their internal processes. And again, what I expect is that Apogee can help them do that. And that sometimes might mean us going in and saying to a customer, we're going to help you, reduce your fleet by 80%, and we're going to do this through these other tools that we've got. So again, creating value for our customers, because of an unmet need that they have.
Yeah, absolutely agree. And I think, bound to see more consolidation in the market. And as you say, Fujifilm was an interesting disruption to the market. But I think it just means that there's a bigger need for differentiation in the channel and the OEMs. And ultimately, that will be through the digitization solutions, managed IT services and so on. So no, I really want to thank you for joining me today. It's been a really insightful conversation. So thanks again. And I look forward to speaking to you in the near future.
Thank you so much, Louella. It's been a real pleasure. I look forward to the next chat.
So thank you for joining today's episode of In the Spotlight with Quocirca. For more information, please visit quocirca.com and be sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel. Thanks again for joining, and I look forward to seeing you in the next episode.